Hi. Let's talk about recovery. I had someone ask me this question, and I've really been thinking about it for a few days. I was on my way to work this morning, and it really made me pause. And they said, and it was a TikTok question. Maybe I'll post this to TikTok as well, and I will tag them. And they said, hey, I'm a special education teacher. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I have small kids. I have to give and give and give. And I have to be understanding and compassionate and empathetic to others all day long. How am I supposed to recover? How am I supposed to make that work? And I absolutely, from the depths of my soul, understand that, because during the most difficult parts of my recovery, right, I was a wife. I was a mother. My kids were teenagers. It was a rough go, those teenagers. And I also was an educator in elementary school, special education, and those kids, they need a lot. They need a lot of your energy, of your mental capacity, right? And it is true that it's absolutely easier for us. It's absolutely easier for people with eating disorders to not eat, because when we don't eat, we feel better, we feel more alert, we can concentrate better. That is true, right? And there's reasons for that. Our eating disorder, anorexia, was this evolutionary adaptation to famine, right? And so we we have those feelings because once upon a time, when we needed anorexia to truly survive that environment and to find new lands and new food, right, during times of famine, that when we ran out of food in our environment, we would have needed for our survival to be able to concentrate more, to be more alert, to not feel how tired we were, right? And so it makes sense that we feel better when we don't eat, that we can concentrate more when we don't eat. Unfortunately, as you do start to eat, that is going to take up a lot of mental space. It is, of course, it's going to take up more mental space. You haven't been doing it. When you do eat, your brain is going to send you signals that you're bad, you're wrong, it's not okay, and that is going to happen. And so we have to expect that to happen. So what a lot of people do is they jump in and they start eating. They get those feelings of being bad and wrong and guilt and shame, and they're like, oh my gosh, those feelings are awful, I can't handle it, and they're out. Well, you have to expect those feelings. Know they're going to come. They are going to come. And when they come, acknowledge them and eat anyway. And that can be done. That absolutely can be done. So for me, did I jump in and start eating all day at work? No, that was not an environment where I could tackle my first eating, right? I used to eat my first meals at like 4 o'clock. So I started eating them the second I got home from work. That's when I started eating my first food. Then I started eating a little bit at work, but I started eating safe foods. So instead of jumping all in, have you tried making very small changes that you can keep over time? Because that's going to help you not have those huge reactions and jump out again, right? Because you are going to feel bad. I was miserable. I was a horrible wife. I was a horrible mother. But guess what? I was a horrible wife and mother when I had my eating disorder as well. And so sometimes we think, oh, I can't do recovery. Recovery turns me into a bitch. It makes me self-centered. It makes me think of myself. Okay, but also when you have your eating disorder, are you a kind, gentle human, or are you always preoccupied with food thoughts? I would guess that when you're at work and you're with those kids, you're probably thinking about what you're going to reward yourself with at the end of the night to eat. Are you going to have that little 200-calorie TV dinner at the end of the night and you're thinking about it, why somebody's throwing a tantrum at work and you're dealing with that? Probably. That's what I was doing when I was sick, right? Are you thinking about the workout that you have to do right when you get off to make up for like that one bite of cookie that you had earlier? Probably that's what I was thinking of, right? And so you have to remind yourself of how awful miserable you are right now also. Because even though recovery is going to turn you in, and yes it will, to a different type of human, Some people just get very tired. Some people just don't have mental capacity. Some people get mean, and I was one of those humans that got mean. I was just awful. I was snapping, I was aggressive, my poor family, but I had to go through it. And when you get out the other side, that's the time you can apologize, and that's the time your family will see it's worth it, and you will see it's worth it. But you are going to have to go through this time. There's no getting around it, right? So you have to keep your eye on the prize. You have to keep looking at the goal. Where do you want to be a year from now? Do you still want to be sick? Do you want to be sick when your kids are teenagers? Because my kids were teenagers, and guess what happens when they're teenagers? They start pointing your shit out. My kids started pointing my shit out. They were like, Mom, you need to eat that. What is wrong with you? That is not dinner. Carrots are not dinner, right? They used to comment all the time. My oldest called me Skeletor at one point as a teenager. That is the future if you don't recover now. So it's really important for you to think about that. And when you start thinking, I can't do this at work, and you challenge yourself and you take a safe food for lunch at work, or you're challenging a fear food at work for the first time and you think, I can't do this, I can't eat this fear food because I have to go deal with these kids next and I need all the brain space. Okay, that will work right then. But where is that going to get you next year, next month, in 6 months, with what truly matters, right? Which are your kids and your family, right? And not to say those kids at school don't matter, because they do, but also you matter. You matter, and where you're going to be matters. And right now, you are not all there for those kids at work. I know that because I wasn't all there for those kids at work, right? I know you're not all there for them, but you can be in the future if you take the steps now. Are you going to be mean and grumpy? Probably. Are you going to be extra tired? During my recovery, I would come home from work at 3:30, 4. I would lay right on the couch and I would go to sleep every day. My poor family. Then I would wake up, I would eat, and I would go to sleep, and I would eat and sleep, and that's all I had the capacity to do. I wasn't there for my family at that time. But now I can be there for them because I went through that time. So you have to think of that end game, and you can absolutely do this. I know you can, because you are strong, and I know you're strong, because people with eating disorders are strong, capable human beings. They are strong. And I've never met someone with an eating disorder that wasn't extremely strong. So I know you can do this, and I know you have it in you. And when you start getting bitchy, when you start getting grumpy, you can apologize, right? You could just say, I'm sorry. I used to lash out at my poor husband. I would leave, I'd come back, and I'd say, I'm sorry, in an aggressive tone. I probably apologized in an aggressive tone. But now I'm recovered. And now we can look back and sometimes laugh and sometimes cry. But now we're on the other side. And you also need to get to the other side. But getting to the other side requires that you do what you have to do now. Okay? So now you have to eat. And you have to eat 6 times a day. You have to eat breakfast. Okay? You have to eat early. You have to eat that breakfast. You have to eat often. You can't go 3 hours without food, and you have to eat enough. Okay? Those are the 3 rules you have to live by. I'm here for you. I had a good work.